Hey, hello, everybody. We are here today with you again live, and boy, we're just throwing these things together. We're going live all the time now because so much is happening so fast. I hardly even know where to start. We're in the midst of a revolution, and when I say we're coming to you live today, coming today with Evie. Hi, Evie.
I'm blurry. Hold on.
You're blurry?
Can you see? Hi, everybody. How are you? Good afternoon. It's good to be here.
Yeah, that looks sharper. There we go.
Happy Friday.
We got that all worked out. And oops, not quite ready for that view yet. We'll go back to here. We'll go. Hey, so yeah, we're flying by the seat of our pants here today because wow. So things are breaking. We have financial market stuff. I've just done this with all of my subscribers. We've been talking about the gold. The gold markets are sending huge signals right now, and I'm worried that it's getting lost.
Yep.
It's important. If this was happening in any other context, it would be everything we would be talking about 24/7 because it speaks to the idea that potentially there is a financial crisis coming.
By design, that they're trying to make it so that
it could be
we're not paying attention to that.
They're like, now would be a great time to just sort of sneak this into the pie.
Remember, like, there were some major accounting errors that happened right around 9/11, if I'm not mistaken. And also,
oh yeah, remember
COVID-19.
September 10th, it's like, we can't account for 2.3 trillion or 2.1, a couple trillion. Donald Rumsfeld, September 10th, he's like, yeah, we don't know. It's just
shoot,
we just got distracted, everybody. Guess we forgot to follow up on that story.
I think that happens quite a bit, honestly. It's probably a tactic.
I think so too. So welcome, everybody. Welcome to this here at Livecast. Remember, this is live, and your comments, if you're leaving them over here, are available for us to see, and we will be bringing them in, such as we might just say, Robert Mill said, yeah, Evie, by design. By design. So that's the point, though. We might be having to consider that they're sneaking things in right now.
Mm-hmm.
This is a great time to hide some stuff because huge stuff is happening. Really, really big.
I know.
Really big. So if I was going to title this one, I would have called this one Welcome to the Age of Consequences, because we're getting some consequences now.
Woo-hoo. That's awesome.
Finally. But I mean for the people who deserve to have the consequences, not for the wrong people. We've always had those.
For the little people.
For the little people. So did you hear that, USAID, they thought had around 14,000 employees, and Marco Rubio and Elon Musk and others, they sat down, very carefully thought it through and said, I think we only need 294. I'm not kidding.
Whew, those are some painful layoffs there.
Yeah. 98%.
Yeah. I just have to say, I feel bad for the people that are getting sort of swept up in needing to take out the trash. Like, I'm sure there's some good folks who are within that bundle that just got let go, whose fault it is not necessarily.
Sure.
That they're, that there's a corrupt political class that's part of permanent Washington that's just entrenched. It's not their fault, and they probably thought they were doing good, and maybe they did, do some good. So just want to put that out there.
Well, it's quite possible that there was some good being done in there, but what we learned was that by and large, what happened was, if say $1 billion would flow out to an NGO out of USAID, then that would then tentacle out and send it out to these other boxes, these other EIN taxpayer identification numbers of other NGOs and things and think tanks, and then they would send out more, then they would send out more. And then somewhere at the tail end of that 12-step process, there'd be an African villager getting a bottle of water, right? With little, it's just skimming. Well, of course, we have our 5% handling fee as a nonprofit, you understand, and we have staff.
And we can't take donated water. We'd have to take only
parking.
Dasani.
We got our Political Pro subscription to account for. It was exactly what it seemed. And sometimes you just got to like axe the whole thing down and start over. And that's what they opted to do.
Yeah.
This is a really big moment. Hodo Prime has it exactly right. This is the biggest crackdown in corruption since Andrew Jackson, who of course went up against the banking structure and did his best and was soundly hated for having done that. So, let's see. Let's move into this. So, welcome to the Signal Hour. Welcome, everybody. We still see more people piling in. Good thing. And so let's start here. This is something that really caught me. when it came out. And let me just make sure. So Evie, is your microphone recording?
I think so.
Yeah, you look pretty good. Maybe I'll make you a little. I'll make you a little louder there. Okay, that looks better. Good. All right. So this is Pam Bondi. She's our new attorney general. Has been confirmed. Comes to us out of Florida, and said this.
Well, we know he was on the plane, not only on the plane a couple times, multiple times. He traveled internationally with Jeffrey Epstein. And he was on the plane called the Lolita Express because it supposedly had a bed in there where Jeffrey Epstein had young girls. He has been a friend of his, a continuing friend of his for years and years. Contrast that with Donald Trump, who hasn't spoken to him in many years, over a decade, after he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago for bad behavior. So that's the difference there. And I think Americans see the two-tier justice system. But, you know, we don't know. They're saying Clinton has not been to his private island, but he has traveled all over the world with Jeffrey Epstein.
So Clinton didn't go to the private island. That would be kind of a litmus test for me, like who did go to that private island, I guess. But yes, little St. James. But
she's awesome. She's such a firecracker. I actually like her a lot.
So far, and also just shut down that whole sanctuary cities thing as a defense, saying, hey, no, we got laws, and if you break the laws, they're the laws. So that's going to be weird. We're going to get back to this thing where where the laws matter. But this is the first time somebody in power and authority has mentioned Bill Clinton and Jeffrey Epstein. And so listen, what we have not been treated to so far, which we deserve, is a complete accounting of the Epstein files, right? And let's go further. So here's what we're learning, Evie, from the USAID thing. It's that old saw that we got out of Watergate. Follow the money. So if you follow the money, I mean, there's two things that they have in their power, right? One is you control the information flow. Here's things we talk about. Here's things we don't talk about. You can commit sins of omission, sins of commission. Omission is not, did we forget to talk about Bill Clinton's 26 trips on the Lolita Express, which we've known about for probably 10 years now, since the first flight logs came out. But I mean, other people are catching up now.
Yeah.
But then it's the money. It's follow the money. So here's a question. Ready?
Yeah.
Who funded this guy? So Jeffrey Epstein was apparently kind of a failed, creepy high school teacher at a preppy sort of a school for a while. And then next thing you know, he's managing millions and billions, right? And a lot of that came from Leslie Wexler, right? So it's this financier, right? And you look at it and it has heavy duty Israeli connections all through it, right?
I bet you're right.
Yeah, of course it does. I mean, look, Ghislaine Maxwell, this is not a secret, right? Ghislaine Maxwell, her sister works for Mossad. Her dad was one of the most venerated and decorated Mossad agents. And now we're just supposed to pretend she's just randomly decided to check up with some guy named Epstein and get a lot of very powerful United States people, including presidents. And this is a
black book.
And by the way, can I just say how much this bothers me? When the New York Times was running cover for these people, they would say, oh, yes, they had sex with underage women. Like, no, we used to have a shorter term for that, right? Oh, kids. We called them children. We didn't call them underage women. Oh, no, they would call that having non-consensual sex with. Again, we used to have a shorter word. Rape.
Yep. Statutory rape.
Right. So at any rate, we got to talk about that. That's really shot through the whole system, right? But for us to finally have an attorney general even saying the words like, hey, maybe we should take a look at this right now.
It's shocking, isn't it?
It is.
I'm curious.
Long overdue.
How other people are feeling about hearing it. I imagine they're having a similar reaction.
Yeah.
Everyone on.
Yeah.
On with us today.
I'm with you today. You want to look at that one from New Zealand. Hey, Wanaka, New Zealand. Good to see you too.
Awesome.
So enjoying our coverage. Thanks. I've been having fun too. This is.
You love this.
I do.
You're in your element.
Well, can I be honest for a second? I'm loving this because we were going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, we were.
We were absolutely going in the wrong direction.
We were. And it was getting depressing to wake up every day and feel like you were swimming upstream against all of that.
Yeah, and it was all just crazy, like having to absorb this crazy stuff like, oh, having an open border makes you safer. Like, no, it just doesn't.
Right. Like,
Does-
Chris, everybody knows.
It just
These things.
doesn't. And, you know, and you know, this whole thing like, oh, we have to really support all of this 38 gender thing because that makes people's lives better. And I'm like, I've seen these people, they're not happy, right?
Yeah.
If it made lives better, we would have the data. We just don't. And oh yeah, we have to give these shots to 6-month-olds because that's the right thing to do. I'm like, you don't have no, they don't have it was just nonsense, right? It was nonsense. It was that, you know what it was for me, Evie? Things are starting to make sense again, right? So a helicopter crashes into a plane.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what Trump says? He says, hey, it was flying much higher than 200 feet. That simple. I'm like, that's what you would say.
Facts? What?
That's what you would say. In the old universe, we would have to wake up to a headline that's like climate change may have contributed to, you know.
You're right.
Right?
Yeah.
So it was just nonsense, right? Remember this one? Well, the way we combat racism is by making it all about someone's skin color. Right? That was
evil white men better leave
evil whiteies,
the planet,
you know, or whatever, right? Yeah. Everything was climate change too. It was just crazy. Too cold, climate change. Too hot, climate change. Wet, climate change. Too dry, climate change. Everything was climate change.
Yeah, it was.
But they couldn't connect it. It was just nonsense.
Does that seem like it's going to change too? The climate change aspect?
Absolutely.
Is that
absolutely
getting turned over too?
Chris Wright, the new energy secretary, just today came out and said, oh, by the way, we're not prioritizing green energy over producing new energy.
Wow.
Nuclear reactors. There's some companies making small modular nuclear reactors.
I want one.
Me too.
I mean,
in our yard
thorium.
even. But their stock price exploded today because, you know, people can connect those dots pretty easily.
That's exciting.
Yeah. So anyway, but this is a big deal. This to me is a big deal that at least the words are being said. We still have the P. Diddy tapes to go through. And I guarantee you there's going to be a whole lot of other tapes we haven't heard about yet because that was the game. Yeah. And unfortunately, like, if you got caught on one of these tapes, then they owned you. But I also happen to believe that you couldn't begin to play the game unless you were on one of these tapes. It was like
right.
They needed a control file. Like if you weren't willing to have non-consensual carnal relations with underage women
or boys,
right?
Then you weren't going to be elected. You were never going to be elected.
You couldn't make it. You could not be elected. You wouldn't be selected. You couldn't like enter the arena. I think that's how it worked. I really do. Okay. But this is a big deal. We're talking about this now, and that's a great thing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Mark, that probably was climate change. He says my dishwasher broke. Probably climate change. No, I would agree. Bondi does not look 60, and she is 60, believe it or not. But yeah, it does not look 60 at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She looks
all
great.
Right. Okay, so moving on. We now find out that the Senate has just voted to move forward on RFK Jr. So this is leading the department to lead the HHS, right?
Mm-hmm.
Senate motion approved by 52-47, pure party lines again.
Oh, wow.
All right. We're going to talk about that in just a second. And a final vote on his confirmation is expected next week.
Are they dragging their feet at all? A little bit, probably, but
little bit.
Not too bad. I'm
thrilled by this. I'm totally thrilled. In fact, this is absolutely my, if you said, Chris, are you a single issue voter? I am about this. You are either on the right side of this or you're on the wrong side of this story. The wrong side is saying, oh, no, we want to keep things how they are. RFK might do things that we don't agree with. So we just want things how they are, which means we want our country to be the fattest, sickest, spend the most, worst outcomes with the least healthy children with the highest autism rates in the industrialized world. That's what we want. We like it things that way. So that's what we want. If you think that way, well, we can't be on the same team. Our Venn diagrams don't have any overlapping territory. Now, but this is, you know, what's astonishing is how much this revealed for us all, Evie. It revealed so much. So check this out. So John Fetterman, he's sort of like, he's a Democrat senator. Obviously, you know, the guy who was schlubby, you know, doesn't dress for the part, just looks awful. Looks like somebody at a freaking airport. Sorry.
No, he kind of does.
I have a thing about people at the airport
and went
in their slippers and pajamas and all that. But anyway, He said, I have met with most of the cabinet nominees, carefully watched their confirmation hearings after considering what's at stake. I have voted against moving forward the confirmation of Ms. Gabbard and Mr. Kennedy. I will be voting no on their confirmations. Right. And I just told him, hey, I won't ever forget that. I won't. I really won't. Like, there's no, like, he can't suddenly like turn Ron Paul and become amazing for me. There's like, that's not going to happen here.
Like, even if some of these people wake up in like 2 years, you're not going to be like, okay.
Nope. This is a no backsies moment. I will never forgive him for this, because this was literally saying, I want your kids sick or dead. That's what he's saying here. Full on. Right.
And he, of all people, should understand what it's like to live with like chronic issues, right? From a health perspective.
You'd think, didn't the guy have a stroke or something like that? Yeah, I got to find this one thing, because this is astonishing. We just gotta, let me see. I think this was,
we're going searching.
Yeah, I found this thing. Yes, I gotta find it now.
Chris is pulling it up as we speak.
You know, I am the information scout. I know where to find everything, but it takes a second.
But you could really be forgiven for not being able to keep up with the pace of this. It's so insane. Like, it is way more than regular news that you try to wake up and familiarize yourself with. This is just breaking so fast, hour after hour, that you blink your eyes or you go do something else in your life and you fall behind. It's very strange.
Yeah. So
it's awesome, but it's wild.
It is. So this is from the Chief Nerd on X, and this is a heat map with blue being cold and red being hot of autism rates in the world. What do you notice?
Man, North America is just messed up.
What? At a minimum, the thing you should be noticing out of a chart like this is that somebody in a position of authority, public health, this is your job. You would look at this map and you would say, maybe we better go ask India what they're up to. Maybe we better go find out what Africa or South America is up to. Maybe we should go see what Russia or China are up to. Maybe. Maybe we could just like go, like, you know what? Nice first class, business class trip. Take a junket over there. Bring your family. Ask a few questions. We could get, this is an epidemiological disaster right here. And nobody has been interested in looking into it until now. And that's what they're afraid of, is that RFK Jr. is going to come in and say, I think this is solvable. This is a science problem.
Right.
And we can get to the root cause of this.
Right.
Okay. It's entirely possible.
Oh, it really is, because look at all the, you don't quite have controls, but you do. I mean.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. Right.
Look at Europe is like as red, or getting there as red as we are. It's nasty. And I guess I didn't realize what Canada's policy was, but I'm guessing their schedule looks a lot like ours.
Look carefully. All we have to do is go to Mexico. It's like, we don't even have to go that far. We don't even need the first class trip to China. We could walk there from El Paso. Like, just go over the other side. Like, hey, what are you guys doing over here, man? Like, is it tacos? We just need to know. Is it the type of corn they eat? What? It must be something. And this is what they've been hiding. And of course, this is what they're really afraid of. Right? So afraid of getting to the bottom of this, because you know what? We're going to find out that we know exactly what this was. And we've known for decades. And it's been hidden. And I guarantee you there are notes to that effect. There are buried science studies. There are things like that. That's what we got.
I feel afraid for the people that are at the top right now, just because all of this information that's coming out is so explosive.
Yeah.
You know, I'm imagine there have got to be people that are just scrambling and freaking out because of what we're looking into and what we're finding. And do you get that sense? Like, I would be worried now more than ever that something awful could happen. And I hope not, but somebody was asking what that map was, but I think you said it.
Yeah, that was autism rates around the world. And so red was really hot. And that's number of children per 1,000 or some rate like that, or per million. I forget what the scale was, but that's what that was. And you could say, oh, well, there's different diagnoses. That's the first thing they point to. Oh, it's just diagnosed more now. Like, no.
We have better doctors. That's why.
Yeah. So I can tell you that we had exactly 0 kids when I was in elementary school that walked around not making eye contact and shrieking at minor noises. We didn't have any of that. Like, that wasn't a thing.
Yeah, I don't remember that either. It's changed in my lifetime, in our lifetime. in your lifetime if
Yeah.
you're listening to this.
But they've normalized it. Now you're just like, oh yeah. I mean, how many people do we know just in our neighborhood? There's the people up the hill.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yep.
I mean, they're just, it's kind of it's everywhere.
We have a small town.
I know.
That's
Okay.
really bad.
So Senator John Fetterman, I will never forget this. I'm on with that. All right, let's go to Elizabeth Warren here, who I don't know if did you see her in the confirmation hearings? She was angry.
Yeah.
She was bitterly angry at RFK, like, and she actually accidentally in a hallway like this one, but not this incident here, said, I think that he doesn't understand the impact on pharma profits that are going to happen.
She said
it straight
up. She said the quiet part.
Yep.
I mean,
won't somebody think
she
of
had
pharma's $80
vitriol.
billion in profits last year? Won't somebody think of them?
She had a wickedness in her eyes and her
She did.
voice. It was like Gollum. It was really scary.
I know. Well, let's listen to this now because this is just astonishing.
Big Pharma since 2020. The reason why you don't want RFK Jr. suing Big Pharma? Is that why?
No, check the website. I don't take contributions from Big Pharma executives. I don't take any corporate PAC money. And you and your allies already know that.
Big Pharma.
You and your allies already know that. I don't take any, and listen to this. This is the key to listening to these politicians like this, is when they're oddly specific.
Mm-hmm.
I don't take any money from pharmaceutical executives, right? I define executive different from you, I guess, right? That's oddly specific, you know?
Yeah.
And we know how the game works, right? The corporation, Pfizer, say they have a big party, they invite all of their director and up level people, and then they invite Liz Warren in, and they go, sure would be awesome if everybody here contributed.
And they give them stock probably.
Yeah, and then you contribute, and they find out, and next thing you know, your next paycheck is trued up a little bit. That way they evade the limits and all that stuff. So this is awesome. This is one of the greatest things I love about being on X these days, because that happens and immediately. So that was Defiant L's up there who posted that, and immediately look at the community note. Ooh, body slam. Elizabeth Warren has, in fact, received donations from both pharmaceutical companies and PAC organizations in the combined tune of millions of dollars. Wow. Sources: Open Secrets, Time.com, Politico.com, even.
Time?
Their own internal rags in the Washington Post.
Oh.
6.9 million views, 153,000 likes. Like she has not detected that the winds have changed. She is doubling down on her grifty bullshit, right? Not knowing that it's just changed.
It
like
has
she
just
thinks
changed.
you can just like give your grandmotherly huffy moment, like, how dare you question me, right? Like, well,
and to shame people.
Yeah, like that. That used to work. It doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work.
I'm just ashamed that she is associated with our state. Okay.
Yeah.
I just have to say that out loud.
One of us comes from the other state. She comes from ours, or we come from them. But anyway, yeah.
I can't believe
but it's gross.
that.
So when did the Democrats become the party that says, you know what? We really don't want to get to the bottom of why our kids are sick or have autism. We don't even want to know. We don't even want to ask the question. They're trying to say that, that science is settled, right? So let me remind everybody, there's a story that Bobby tells all the time. I've heard it a couple times. So they were trying very hard to get some information out of, at that point in time, I think it was the CDC, the NIH, all that stuff, right? And the FDA. And it was about vaccines, vaccine injury, and all that stuff. Okay. And so they had to FOIA this information out. And then he got a whistleblower person who came in and said, look, here's how it went down. That they had this big meeting. They looked at the data. They were horrified because it showed clearly that the Hep B vaccine led to that chart we just saw, right? I can't say this or YouTube will just kill me, but that chart with the red spot on it, that those were connected events. And they spent the whole second day of the meeting talking about how they were going to hide that from the American people. Now, can you even imagine what would happen when a nation finally figures out that they haven't just been gaslit? They haven't just sort of been fibbing, and maybe there was some interpretation errors, and we see it this way, you see it that way, but
statistical errors.
But that they hid specifically from people something that they knew was harming their children.
They're going to be outraged. We should be outraged.
Well, these people have names, right?
They do.
It's not like the FDA did that. The entity didn't do that. There were people on committees with names. who did that.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what, for whatever reason, the Democrats are now covering up like crazy. I'm not saying all Democrats. I'm not speaking about all Democrats. I'm speaking about Liz Warren, Bernie Sanders. What a surprise disaster that guy turned into.
That's disappointing.
I didn't realize how I think I had a little residual hope that maybe he was what he appeared to be, and he just revealed himself to be like this.
Gross.
He's just a guy who has no morality, no morals.
Yeah, he really doesn't.
None. Zero.
He lost me.
Yeah. Oh, so anyway, yeah, this is going to get away from me quick if I don't carry on with things here.
You got so much material.
All right. So I got to keep going at this because this is really important. So a big question that I get asked a lot, Evie, and I know you do too, is what happened to my loved ones? What happened to Aunt Sally? What happened to, I just made that up, fictitious, but I mean, what happened to these people I used to know? There's this growing divide where I look at Liz Warren and I see somebody who is maliciously uncaring about the health and state of our children. And other people would look at her and say, wow, she's fighting the evil demons of Trumpism and Hitler and Nazism. And we see it completely differently.
Yeah.
So the question is, how did we get to such vastly different orientations with apparently no ability to cross over? Now, I'm willing to cross over. I'm willing to do that. If somebody said, listen, I think Trump is Hitler, I think he's sexist, I think he's racist, I think he's these things, I'll say, okay, what do you got? Because that's how I roll, right? What's your data? You know what happens when I ask somebody that who holds that point of view? Invariably, 100% of the time so far?
I think I can guess. It's happened to me too. Nobody has any actual data.
Nothing. Just blank stares.
Nothing at all. Maybe a few weak talking points that they can't actually back up with anything definitive, but that's it.
That's what I get.
Yeah.
It's pretty astonishing. So I have this theory I've been putting out, and for anybody who's heard this before, I'm just going to reinforce it. But for people who haven't heard this is really important. I don't think this is organic. I think these people have been nudged, and I think they've been harmed by a set of tools that formerly we would unleash on other countries and call it color revolutions, right? Using social media to amplify certain mob-like cultural carrier waves to get people steered this way instead of that way, the giant bait ball of fish moving left instead of right. I think that's what's going on. And so the name this goes by is this thing, stochastic terrorism. Fancy name. I think it's too fancy of a name. You come up with something different. But at any rate, it's instigated by hostile public rhetoric directed at a group or an individual. And unlike an incitement to terrorism, like, hey, I think you should go blow that up. It's vague. It's just kind of like, sure would be a shame if something happened to Elon, you know?
Or those boys that are helping him.
Or those boys who are helping him, you know?
Yep.
Coded language like, geez, I sure hope, they don't wander too close to a cliff edge, or something, right? It'd be like that. Yep. Okay, so that grants the instigator plausible deniability, and a key element is the use of media for propagation. Now back in the old days, we would have like Randolph Harston would say, oh, somebody blew up the Maine, USS Maine in Havana Harbor, and everybody would get all outraged and we'd go beat up a country, right? So that was then, but now it's a lot more sophisticated, and it leads to stuff like this. Okay, let me take us off for a second. So this is from the subreddit R50501. I got a few more examples if you've seen this one before in yesterday's program. I just got to bring it up because it's really this important. This can't be repeated too many times. First off, somehow you can see the word guillotine showing up all over here. So somehow this amalgam of humans and bots, because it's both, okay?
Probably.
Has settled on the idea of guillotines, which means, you got to lose your head. I don't know. Robespierre, guillotine in the lower right corner, all this stuff. They're calling them traitors. It's been a coup. No empathy. We can't have an iota of empathy. Cave their skulls in. Look in the upper right there. Same. I'm a mother and privileged to live in a 2-parent household. I am going, one of us can die. So she's ready to put her life on the line because something is that bad is happening that she's ready to leave her children motherless because it's that important, whatever this is. Now, here's the thing. What if half of those are bots and they're just in there stirring up trouble? And they're there to create the appearance that you and your views aren't even extreme enough, because you're sitting here going, wow, I am mildly annoyed at them looking at USAID. I didn't even know what that was last week. And now I find out I should care. So I'm mildly annoyed. But these people went straight from not knowing what USAID was to saying we should chop their heads off.
Yeah.
Because I submit to you, there were bots in there stretching that boundary until people are like,
oh, you can say that? Okay.
Well, these people are all part of what I call the bait ball. Their entire existence is about conforming to where they think the center mass of their tribe is. They're not original. Yeah. They're not edgy. They're not like anything. They are conformists 100%, and they like the authoritarian conformity, right? You all have to think the right things. You have to say the right things. You have to believe the same things. And they have a conformity to their nonconformism, right?
Yeah.
You know, they are wildly intolerant in their tolerance, right? It's this contradiction of terms, but the most important thing they have is sticking to the center of the tribe. Well, what happens if they think they're hewing to the center, but the center has been dragged way off into ridiculous violent terrorism land because of some bots being operated by U.S. government agencies, NGOs, cutouts, corporations, right?
Or it's just the way AI works, and it takes the most inflammatory on either end of the spectrum and magnifies those things.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
Like, we don't know.
Yep. Well,
I don't think.
Yeah. So it's this, right? So Nana's City Farm says they think they're the majority. It empowers them. But Nana, the point here would be, what if half of these, they think they're in the majority because of all these amazing comments that are coming through, right? But what if they're just fake? They have the appearance of being in the majority, right? What if that happens? Let me see if I can find this one. Let me see if
I saw it down there. There.
Okay. Robert with a super chat. Hey, thanks, Robert. We appreciate that always, of course. What I want to know is what members of Congress sit on what boards and draw what salaries for every NGO funded by USAID. And if it's not actually members of Congress, Robert, it's people who just recently left. So we saw the odious troll-like neocon Billy Crystal come out and say, "Oh, this is terrible what's happening to USAID," and it took people like all of 10 minutes to figure out that he was getting funded by several USAID
really?
NGO cutouts.
I didn't see this.
Yeah, it's just gross. It's really gross.
I can't keep up with it. There's so much going on.
I know. That's why we do these things so quick now.
It's insane.
So this part, Reddit is advocating extreme violence, right? So here they are doxing the names of the young people who are working with Elon Musk. We know that we have at least one the U.S. attorney working on this saying, hey, we better go look at these people. If these are real people, we're going to knock on the door. We know that they're just advocating for violence again with the guillotines. Who knows why that's suddenly caught their minds. But my proposal is maybe we need to terminate Reddit and also Blue Sky for the national good. You know, that's what I think we might want to do, because it's clearly not making people's lives better. If you're advocating for violence, at a minimum, you're being very, very divisive in this story.
Yes. And that would be where I think free speech has a limit, right? Like you can, I mean, it's a fine line, of course, but that's where, well, you can't just say whatever you want if you're making threats against people, right?
That was never an issue in free speech. Like there was never a moment where people debated and said, you know, if I say I want to kill you, right, you know, violently while holding a rock over my head, you couldn't, like, that was communicating a threat.
Yeah.
The fuzzy line was, can you yell fire in a crowded movie theater, the famous court case, right?
Yeah.
And people like, oh, you know, they just throw that out there now, like, yeah, you can't yell fire in a movie theater. And I'm like, well, yes, you can if it's on fire. You know, someday it's going to happen. A whole movie theater is going to burn down with people in it because nobody would yell fire, you know. That's where this is all going. No, I mean, so obviously that there's nuances to this, but this is communicating overt threats. Okay, when you say that Elon's head belongs in a basket, right? That's not just like, well, it's a matter of interpretation what you is implying there, right? And it's stochastic violence. It's if you do this enough times, then, well, somebody's going to take you up on that, right? Somebody out there, you know, broken in the head or whatever. I mean, that's the point, though. That's the whole point.
And then they don't have to have take responsibility for it.
Yeah, like, oh, what a shame. No, wow, that's terrible that violence happened, right? But so by the way, that's what happened to Trump at a minimum. If you don't consider what I think actually there's not a chance in the world that Secret Service forgot to cover the slopey roof. But leaving that aside, the least thing that happened was a young man was radicalized enough to think, you know what, my best option here is to try and shoot Donald Trump in the head.
Yep.
And how did he get there? Well, probably because we had CNN and MSNBC calling Trump literal Hitler for 14 months leading up to that moment. That's what stochastic violence is.
That's who I want to shut down. I want to shut down the mainstream media.
Yes.
I am so all done with them.
Are you? Me too.
Yeah, they make me super angry.
Yeah.
It makes me angry because I have young girls that are also picking this rhetoric up. And I feel like I'm having to be persuasive with my own children to try and undo some level of programming that I did not put in their brains to begin with. I didn't do that.
It's programming too.
It is programming. And it's not even that they watch it so much. It's people that they're around have watched it, are brainwashed and communicating that crap. And it bothers me. I think they should be held accountable for a lot that's going on.
Well, here's the thing. Stochastic terrorism is not a legal term on the books. You can't, charge anybody with it.
Sorry for my rant.
No, I love your rants. Should bring more of that. I like it. Spicy. Let's go there. Well, how about this? So Erisine here on Reddit said a distinct possibility of a sharp economic shock that leaves all of us in poverty and Trump and Musk among the most despised people in United States history. That's one of the optimistic scenarios. So here's a person who's bought into this idea that the best they can hope for is for them and everybody else to experience massive poverty. And this is their bright spot in their life. So I'm going to suggest to you that whatever programming they've been exposed to is not doing them a lot of good. If your programming leaves you in a miserable state of abject terror, and by the way, I bet you anything, you could go to this Erisine person and say, can you point to your house like what bad things have happened? They would have nothing in their actual personal life.
Right.
It would be identifiably bad because Trump's been in office for like 2 weeks now. So, I mean, nothing's happened.
Right.
Right. But it's the ideas. They're terrorized by the ideas of it. So they feel under attack because it's their ideology that's under attack. And that feels terrorizing to them. And so that has made their life miserable. But if you have an ideology that can be attacked to the point that it makes you miserable, then that's okay.
Then your sense of self is not very strong.
Then you're in a cult.
Oh.
Well, that's that though, right? Because what does a cult do? It breaks down your sense of self. Right. So that is my definition of a cult. It's an organized system of thinking that you subscribe to that fundamentally doesn't make your life better. Because if it's an organized system of thinking that makes your life better, then that's cool. We call it Tony Robbins. It's improvement. It works for you. But there are organized systems of thinking that make your lives worse. That's a cult. That's what I would call that.
And they don't let you question them. Worst of all.
Never.
That's how you know.
Questioning is heresy. Right? So anyway, to this person, they're like, oh yeah. Well, it gets worse even. So here's a Canadian, and they don't even live here. And they're like, this Trump Doge stuff is ruining my mental and physical health. Like, dude, you're Canadian. Like,
really?
Yeah.
What?
That's like me going, man, they changed the tax laws in Thailand. I am just moribund. This is I can't take it anymore.
This person's telling people to call their representatives.
I can't sleep anymore. They say, all I do is doom scroll and refresh r/news, worldviews, politics, r Canada, anti-Trump Doge subs like R50501 and R Defeat Project 2025.
Ooh,
all I do is
those.
Hope that, yeah, exactly. Thanks for the tips. All I do is hope there is some good news, but there never is. I'm doing everything I can to help. I tell people here, call the representatives. I'm sharing that dark Gothic MAGA video. I've registered to vote Liberal in Canada, and I'm going to vote for Mark Carney. Oh no. Oh, you stooge. That's terrible. Mark, we can talk about Mark Carney later.
Oh, I don't know much about him.
This is
work.
Well, when you say you're going to vote for Mark Carney and you're Canadian, you basically are just telling the world I have Stockholm syndrome, right? It's consuming me. I don't want to end up like the US. I don't want my rights as a woman to be at risk. I have trans friends in the US and I'm afraid for them.
I don't get that part. That part bothers me right there.
Yeah. What do you think it is?
my rights as a woman, because I've been actually poking at this when I've asked people, like,
Yeah.
so what is it that's going away? What's changed?
Yeah. What
Why are
exactly?
you afraid? Like, what are you scared of? You know? And a part of it, I think, could be it gets all mixed in with, people that are here illegally and getting deported and having their families have to leave or their children not being able to stay. But those are just consequences,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
I mean, they're self-inflicted wounds, right? At the end of the day, if you haven't come through here legally,
But what rights as a woman specifically? I hear people are afraid that abortion will be taken away,
Mhm.
but all you have to do is research that for like literally 12 seconds.
And you
you
can find
discover
out that the president isn't in charge of
It's
that
a state.
anyway.
It's a state's issue.
Yeah.
So
It's
you might live in a state that you could be afraid that's going to happen. That's a different discussion in a different
Sure.
battle,
exactly.
right?
But I don't understand why, as a woman, you would feel threatened. If anything, I feel better. Feel better knowing that my girls, at least for the next 4 years, aren't going to have to go up against boys in their sports on their sports teams. That
Yep.
feels good to me, like positive.
Yep. Well,
I mean, I don't know. What do you think women
well,
are referring to?
well, I don't know, but let's take it there. So we just found out yesterday that a Michigan lawmaker has sterilized herself to avoid becoming pregnant while Trump is president. Representative Lori Pohutsky, D. Livonia, said, just under 2 weeks ago, I underwent surgery to ensure that I would never have to navigate a pregnancy in Donald Trump's America. I refuse to let my body be treated as currency by an administration that only sees value in my ability to procreate. If you know, you're laughing. Why are you laughing?
It's not funny, but she's doing the thing that she's
She's doing the
talking
thing.
about.
She's doing the thing.
She's doing the thing.
Yeah.
She is. She's letting something control her body. And what if at the end of it all, she can't get pregnant anyway, later down the road? Why would you do that?
First off,
It's called
Getting-
birth control, lady.
getting pregnant is very much under your control.
Exactly.
It's totally under your control, right? Outside of, getting too close to Bill Clinton, obviously that could get out of control. But other than that, she said, if people are questioning how serious this is, I'm going to repeat myself. A sitting government official opted for voluntary sterilization because she was uncertain she would be able to access contraception in the future. So here she is referring to herself in the third person, also a sign of instability as far as I'm concerned in these things. But it's so I see that that's a cry for attention. I look
Yeah.
at that, and honestly, my first thought is mental illness,
Yeah.
right? Or there's a severe level of mental maladjustment. At a minimum, she's part of a cult because she has an organized system of thinking that is not making her life better. This is making her life more tragic, right? As far as I can tell.
Mhm.
So let's take her side for a second. Imagine you feel, Evie, so distraught over this other party being in power that you decided somehow that your best option was to have your tubes tied. Like that's your response. And then tell everybody about it. Because
It's like filming myself while crying on the phone.
Yeah.
To show people how angry or upset I am. It wouldn't occur to me, honestly.
I know it probably gets awkward about the fourth take. You're like,
Yeah.
I wasn't quite
Oh, wait,
right.
shoot. I'm
Hold it. A little out of focus. Yeah. Let me set this up, get the lighting a little better.
Wow, that's really strange. That's
Yeah.
very weird. That is a crisis. Well, that's the thing that's sad about all this is I actually don't believe. Yeah, she does win the Darwin Award.
Look at
Or are
Pat.
you looking at a different one?
Thank
you.
We love laughing out loud with you too. It's all good.
I'm worried that this doesn't go away for a long time.
I don't think it does. I think
Like,
it's
is this
permanent
permanent
damage.
state?
I
Like,
do.
is she someday going to realize that, wow, that was a huge overreaction to getting completely played by whatever my media of choice is?
Well, if she's honest, someday she'll wake up and figure that out, I think.
I hope she
But look,
can.
okay. So
That's actually really tragic.
so look at but look at this. So I have trans friends in the US and I'm afraid for them. She said there just before we stopped reading. I have trans friends. So again, I haven't heard anything that says there's against trans people. The only thing that happened, which was a gigantic failure for the left who care about women, and Trump is a racist and he's a sexist. And by the way, for people who hold that sexist thing, I'm just sitting here like when I'm asking for like data, and they're like, oh, he said this thing once a long time ago. And I'm like, he has the most diverse cabinet of any president ever, as chief of staff, first woman president, chief of staff of the president ever, right?
Mhm.
He's just like, you know what I've learned about Trump is if you're good, he'll use you.
If you're competent.
And he needs you to be loyal to his program. You know, you can't be out there having it your way, but beyond that, he's looking for highly competent people to get the job done. That's kind of it.
But even if he wasn't, I mean, think about what happened during the Clinton era. Like, I'm sorry, we had a president that was getting BJs under a desk in the Oval Office. Like, I'm sorry. What is it again that you
from an intern? Can we
talk about that?
There's a slight power dynamic, I'm thinking, imbalance between a president and an intern.
I mean, just saying.
Just a little one. Oh, but that's different.
Ridiculous.
You know, because he's on our team. It's just the strangest thing. But again, back to the cell phone, probably one of the most powerful images I've seen is Trump signing an executive order banning men from competing in women's sports, giving women's sports back to women and girls. It's surrounded by a sea of just beaming, couldn't be happier women of all ages, including children. And like, that's just like, well, it couldn't have been Biden doing that because he would have been smelling their hair and putting them on his lap and touching them and stuff. Like, that would have been, they would have if they handcuffed him, like Biden could have done that if they handcuffed him to the table, because he really lost it at the end. He didn't have the filters to, hide that successfully at the later stages, but that's just dementia. It happens. Right. But anyway, so I still don't know oh no, men can't pretend they're women and beat up on girls in their sports. I'm so afraid for my trans friends.
That's weird.
Is that the story? Like, what is it?
I don't know.
I'm trying.
I know. Make it make sense.
Make it make sense, right?
If anybody has any
all right,
any new ideas, feel free to leave them
but this is a Canadian, okay? All right. So this is a Canadian. Trump Doge stuff ruining their mental and physical health if it's a real person. Right? And look at that second up from the bottom. It's deteriorating my relationship with my parents, my new boyfriend, my friends, myself, and my health.
Wow.
That's, again, you're part of a cult if you have an organized system of thinking that is bad for you. And I would submit that by the time your relationships with your parents and your boyfriend and your friends and yourself and even your health is going downhill, you might be in a cult, and not a good one. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Look, 1.9 thousand people said, yeah, Canadian person. That's when this was. Anyway, probably got 20,000 likes now. Yeah, you're speaking for me, Canadian person.
People just, you know what they want. I think what we're seeing too is a lot of people that are so stuck in the victim mentality. They need to be the victim. And as we're rewriting this script, they don't know how they fit in. Right? They're going to have to confront that part of themselves, and it's just impossible. All religions are cults. I agree. Everything is a cult, really, when you think about it.
There are religions that can, fundamentally make your life better. It can work. It's from Cult Leader. Thanks for showing up, Cult Leader.
That's funny.
Good stuff. But I mean, anyway, this is just sort of representative to me of this thing going on. And I'm submitting this hypothesis that this level of mental health, this disease, we watched it get weaponized with Trump derangement syndrome. We watched it get weaponized with masks and then vaccines and then Ukraine. And then they tried it with drones. But we have powerful tools of persuasion. These are AI programs. These are software programs written, carefully scripted, based off the Milgram and Ash experiments and MK Ultra. Like, they've practiced this stuff. Some of it just came from Madison Avenue. How do we make people buy a perfume they don't like? Right? They've learned the tools of persuasion. They weaponized them. They've turned them inward, and they have messed up people's lives. And so all I'm trying to set up here is this thought experiment that says, look, if somebody has done this knowingly and intentionally and has ruined lives, I think they should go to prison for the rest of their lives. I think it's an unpardonable sin. No pardons for that one. In fact, I would submit to you that it's time to consider actually the ultimate punishment too. There's certain things I think that, and it's not that you take somebody and you put them in a private room and you inject them with something and they die. I'm talking about the old public hangings. Now, do you know why they had public hangings back in the day?
Well, I know it used to be a way of sort of getting some ideas across using an example so that the rest of the world would be kind of on notice to not do that thing?
Yeah, it's
Or what are you, what's your
it's
understanding?
well, here I'll show you. Everybody should know this. This is probably one of the most potent pieces of framing I've come across. And by the way, it's from a guy who I don't agree with his politics at all, and I don't agree with his COVID stance, but that's how I am built. I will take anything good from anybody if they've got it. He's got some good stuff. All right, so we'll look at this very quickly. So this is written by Ben Hunt, and he talks about something called the common knowledge game. And common knowledge, well, let me just read it for you here. Common knowledge is what everyone knows that everyone knows, right? So you, Evie, and I, and everybody listening to this privately, we can all agree that, hey, the Warren Commission dropped the ball. It wasn't a lone nut. There's more to the JFK shooting than they said. That's still private knowledge. But when all of a sudden a Pam Bondi comes out and says there was more to it than that, for instance, if she did, then we would get to the place where everybody knows that everybody knows. I no longer have to worry that you out there know the same thing I know. Everybody knows that everybody knows something. And that now it becomes part of common knowledge. And that's when things change. So the parable for this is the emperor has no clothes, right? Everybody knew, I mean, it was private knowledge. Everybody's like, man, he's naked as a jaybird, you know? And it wasn't until the child, the emissary in this story, the missionary, yelled out, the emperor has no clothes. And then all of a sudden, everybody knew that everybody knew the same thing. We all had that common knowledge. And then all of a sudden, the story changed. Whoa, he's embarrassed and he gets blushed and off he went and all that stuff. So common knowledge is why coronations and executions are held in public, he writes here. Not so a crowd can see the new king or the hanged man, but so a crowd can see a crowd seeing the new king or the hanged man. Common knowledge is why sitcoms have laugh tracks. It's why American Idol has a live studio audience. It's why professional sports teams pipe in crowd noise. Common knowledge is why the Egyptian government fell in 2011 after a televised protest in Tahrir Square. And on and on. Common knowledge.
That framing. That's good.
Common knowledge is why everybody knew privately that Harvey Weinstein was a rapey bastard, right? Everybody knew that privately. Oprah would sit down on young ingenue and say, careful, don't get on the sofa with him. You know, just here's what you need to know going into Harvey's office when he closes the door. It was known, but it wasn't until Rose McGowan came out and said, hey, he's a rapey bastard. And then everybody knew that everybody knew. Suddenly the Clintons dropped their association with him. Oh my goodness, he got kicked off of boards. Everybody knew this.
Yeah.
But once everybody knew that everybody knew, his life changed.
Yep.
And that's the point of the common knowledge game.
That's
right?
happening right now.
It is happening right now.
So many ways, I think. Like people are going to start saying, well, if these things aren't true, then where else should we look? And they're feeling, I think, emboldened.
Yeah.
As well.
So we're getting close to that common knowledge game. So that's interesting. All right. So hang on. Let me come back to this now because I want to carry on with one more thing here. You want to know? So the dopamines, this is why we have to do these live casts, Evie, because the dopamine hits are coming too fast. So I want to be able to share them. I got to share them with everybody. Look at me waving my hand in front of your camera. Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. How about this one? Trump removes the federal election commissioner, Ellen Weintraub, and she calls it illegal. She wasn't just a longtime FEC commissioner. I think she was appointed by Bush. Like it's been forever. Says she was removed by Trump in a letter she shared online. The president does not have the authority to remove an FEC commissioner. As she wore garbles about, right? This is the woman who oversaw the installation of e-voting machines that are highly insecure, delivered completely improbable results. We have the worst elections in the entire public world, right? Developed world. She oversaw all of that. Some would say she did her job well because she made our elections completely insecure and delivering totally unbelievable results. But since she did her job terribly from the perspective of giving us secure, verifiable, believable results, which are necessary to a democracy, I would submit, she's getting booted for being miserable at her job, and she's just wants you to know how upset she is.
How did these letters get out, by the way? Did she leak that?
Yeah. At least she got a signed letter from the president. Frame that.
That's pretty cool.
Pass it down to your kids. It's pretty awesome, right? So anyway, we had that going on. Can I do it? Can I play this?
Oh, please.
Oh, you sure?
No, I hate that one.
So some are saying we maybe need to reform the Department of Education and the whole NEA and all of that. I think that this is a really if this was a high school student giving this speech, is F- a thing? Could you do that? At any rate, let's listen in and see if maybe there's some improvements that could be made to the NEA.
Depending on us to win all the things. NEA, we have to win all the things. All the things. All the things. Our colleagues are depending on us to win all the things. Keep going, NEA. To preserve our democracy, we must win all the things. Delegates, we won't go back. We will keep going forward because we are the NEA. We are the NEA. We are the NEA.
Look at the woman behind her, really getting into it.
Which things, Evie?
All the things.
Oh, all the things, right? All the things. So if we were scoring this sort of from a debate standpoint and motivational, it's like, well, content was a little light. You were vague. You repeated all the things 9, 10, 12 times. We forgot. And I didn't come away with a sense really of exactly what those things were.
That's right. This person said it's a good ad for homeschool. Great, Rick. Great ad for homeschooling.
Where I didn't see it. No.
It keeps moving.
I know they're flying by.
Right there. Short charge. Yeah. Anyway.
Oh. You gave me Rick there. Charger Mopar. I was reading the front of the.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, great ad for homeschooling and.
I don't know.
And hey, George, so good to see you here.
George, hey.
Yeah, George.
Yeah.
And John, thanks. Yeah, sounds like she's about to pass out because she used all the air. All the air.
I was getting tired listening to her.
Yeah. So, which things? That's right, David Price. All the things. All of them. So anyway.
Yeah.
So, oh my goodness.
She's very passionate.
So can I, all right, I'm going to close out on this one thing then, because this is really important. So I showed you where on Reddit that they had been doxing these people who they really hated, and Elon Musk has brought in some whiz kids in their 20s who just know how to program stuff. And these are just like, apparently they're actually supposed to be really awesome kids. So this is one of them. And this is somebody who we believe deserves a guillotine. They've been doxed. Their parents' addresses have been doxed by these people on Blue Sky and Reddit. All the addresses and names and numbers are out there. They're calling openly that the parents should lose their jobs wherever they work, because that's how much hatred they have for somebody. And they can't even explain what it is that they're really mad about. But they've jumped somehow, and I submit to you it's because these weaponized propaganda tools have inserted like these violent thoughts into people's heads.
Mm-hmm.
But they've decided that the right thing to do is to see if they can get these people killed or their parents to lose their jobs. Like they've jumped straight to that. Now, this happens to be one of these guys. And let's listen into what an absolute terror this guy is. Luke Faradar, a senior, University of Nebraska. Grand prize winner of this thing.
So I've always been interested in history. Growing up, I learned Latin. I was never that good at it, but I was always kind of into that sort of stuff, read a lot about the Roman Empire and things. And one day I was just listening to a podcast back in March. It was with Nat Friedman. He just kind of got on the podcast, explained like there are these burnt up scrolls that were buried in the Pompeii eruption. No one knows how to read them. But some professors have created CT scans of these scrolls, and they uploaded the data on the internet as a competition to see who could find writing inside of these scrolls. And when I heard that, I was just immediately like, oh my goodness, this is such a cool project. I have to work on this. I just went home from work that day at the end of the day, and I've been working on it evenings and weekends ever since. I run most of the things from my laptop. It's just a normal MacBook, don't worry. But then I've just got like 5 surplus computers in here. This is what I do most of my work from. The Rake School and just the University of Nebraska as a whole has provided a great educational background where I can then, take these skills that I've learned and apply them to problems like this. I just spend hours upon hours staring at flattened pieces of the scroll like this, trying to find these patterns, which are part of the writing. At the start of the challenge, we had not been able to find any writing at all within these scrolls. There are hundreds of these scrolls that are from the mansion. We've scanned a couple of them, and no one had been able to find any writing in them using these methods. Late one Saturday night, I was sitting at a party at a friend's house in Omaha, and I get a text from another person on the challenge team, and he says, "Hey, I've just uploaded this new kind of piece of the scroll. You should take a look at it." I remotely access my computer. I type into it like, "Please run the algorithm on this new piece of scroll." And then I just kind of started. I pull out my phone again, just nonchalantly, like, "Hey, I wonder how that went." And there are 3 Greek letters on the screen, the letters I'd never seen before. It was really cool because it's like, oh my goodness, like we actually detected new writing in the scrolls using AI. That was the moment I realized like this is actually going to work. Like we're probably going to read the scrolls. And I completely freaked out. My friends were there. I was cheering, jumping up and down, screaming, crying, all the stuff. I, took a picture of the results and I sent them to my mom. She called me and she's like, "Hey, these look great." It was a really special moment. Yeah, so this is the word that I actually found. It's right here. It's the word prophoros, which translates to purple. It's the first word we found in the scrolls. It was reviewed by a committee of kind of Greek scholars, but it's the word purple. And I'm glad it's not the word in or the or and that we found first. We actually found a word that has meaning. This would not be possible without modern AI and modern scanning techniques. People have wanted to read these books for hundreds of years, and this seems like the only way that's where it's really possible to do that. Now we're reading entire paragraphs from the scrolls, and hopefully we'll be able to read the entire book and read the hundreds of other books that were buried in this condition as well. When we found this first word, we went public with it, and I think everyone has been very pleasantly surprised by the amount of attention it's gotten. As a college student, it's definitely been overwhelming in the best way possible, but it's been really cool to get to kind of, talk about my findings and, share what I want to do in the future with so many people. So it's been overwhelming in the best possible way. The University of Nebraska does a really good job of encouraging.
So let me straight to camera. Luke represents the absolute best that can be in America. He represents the best of our youth. He represents somebody anybody would be proud to have as their son, brother, grandson. He represents all that's good, right? And you have these horrible Redditors and people saying that he deserves to be, violently destroyed, right? Why? When you have an ideology that says, I need to violently destroy this guy who discovered the word purple and helped unlock the Pompeian scrolls, right? Like he's anybody who's against that guy, who thinks they want to do violence over their ideology, is a broken human being and deserves re-education or something serious. I mean, I'm not kidding, right? I would be so pissed off if I'm his parents that there's people out there hating on my son for being a smart kid.
Yeah. I mean, it happens to some extent, no matter what you do when you're in the public eye, right? There are people there that make all sorts of, they just think that they know things about you. They make things up. They spread rumors. They make judgments. And
I haven't seen this level of violence before. I don't remember this.
I don't
is this
either.
New? I've never seen anything like this.
I don't either.
Fauci was busy killing all of us, and I don't remember people on our side like calling for guillotines instantly. We could have, I think, rightfully, but we didn't.
Right? On the right, they did not.
We were like, maybe he should be charged with something, and we should have a trial.
No, the unvaccinated weren't doing that.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe it's different because it's online and it's not somebody's face, and you can say things, and there aren't any real consequences, right?
Yep.
That's a beautiful story, though. I love how whatever that little vignette was. That was nice.
Oh, well played, Retro. Seems he is seeking all the things. Education system works. Well, it did for him. I would not be surprised to find out he was homeschooled. We'll see.
Yeah.
This is insane. It is totally insane. Purple freaking ties color revolution. Yeah, it is amazing. It's totally amazing. Yep. Amen. Smart kid. And by the way, is this big balls? No, it's not, but know where you're going with that one. And so
is there somebody nicknamed that? Is that what I heard?
Yeah. And we've translated the first complete sentence. Does anyone think this volcano looks a bit angry? Hey, you seeing what I'm seeing over here? And of course, Homesteading Home Video says, yeah, she's knitting. By the way, can I just, so all of this is leading somewhere, which is that there's actually, Trump is going to lead a revolution around the world right now. And even preceding Trump were these brave people in the UK, the Blade Runners. So they didn't like all of their stupid cameras. They're going to trap them in their 15-minute cities, and that we're going to, put tickets on them and all this stuff. Here, let me see if I can.
Oh, I can't wait.
Here, let me.
I love these guys.
Well, this is just music, so I'm turning that off, but I'm going to play this. You can just watch what's happening in the background. That's Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London, all that. Says, Big Brother loses his sight, S-I-G-H-T, correctly spelled. England is on the verge of shutting down the World Economic Forum's 15-minute cities program after almost all the cameras were destroyed and 50,000 people refused to pay the fines. Cameras cannot be protected if the police refuse to take action. The courts are not in a position to convict so many people. All the city cameras have been destroyed. Cheers to the Blade Runners. This activist group has neutralized 90% of the cameras installed under a zero emission scheme that penalizes vehicles that fail to meet standards.
So is this different than CCTV?
Yeah, well, they put these cameras up and they do all kinds of things, but they're highly intrusive. And so these things are reading your license plates and doing a lot more than that, right?
I see.
But the whole idea was that, they would trap you in your little district. So you couldn't leave your little center area. And if you did, you would be charged a lot of money.
You get sent a ticket in the mail.
Yeah, automatic ticket.
Wow.
So there were people who were running around with their traffic camera repair kits and their sawzalls, right?
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm down with that too. And this is the thought. So Dave Fairtex writes a lot of stuff for us. He writes our weekly market commentary. It's really, our subscribers love it at Peak Prosperity. It's every Sunday. And Dave just has a wit and a style, and he's looking at markets, but he also captures all these different news elements and synthesizes them, and really good thinking. This is just a comment he left under my most recent piece where I did an interview on Finance University with Paul Kiker. And we were talking about things, and I had said that the recent surge in gold prices and the massive transfer of gold from Europe to the US is noteworthy. Beyond noteworthy, it's alarm-worthy. It's very big. The movement suggests that big players might be preparing for an economic emergency or other massive loss of trust in the financial system. Dave wrote, I agree. Something is going on in Europe. If money is fleeing Europe and into gold, it is less about gold, woo, and more about, something coming in Europe. And that is terrifying to big money. Big money, capitalized big money. Given the U.S. blobs stupidly seizing Russian assets, which they did in February of 22, the USD isn't the safe haven it used to be. So now gold is the first choice for capital flight. Across the pond, they keep trying to ban the AFD in Germany. So across the pond, the other direction, right? This will make AFD even more popular, just like lawfare assassination did with Orange Hitler here in the U.S., right? Because that's what they called him. Yeah. Bad orange man, Hitler. So Dave's just shorthanding that for us. This is happening across the EU. This has only one outcome. When things get bad, capital controls will be applied to save EU grandma. Really, we have to save the WF Brussels Politburo, but to save the EU grandma, we're going to have to put capital controls in, right? And this will signal the end of the euro. They have decided to destroy Germany via migration. The little people of Germany slowly figuring this out, and the outcome is entirely predictable. Timeline? That's the only question. I suspect Trump has sped up all the timelines of all of this, all the things, right? And the more success Trump has, the more contagion will spread to Europe. I agree with that 100%. I think that what Trump has just done, showing that it is possible to do things like dismantle the Department of Education, put a stake through the left ventricle of the deep state, we'll call that dismantling USAID, firing workers, getting rid of, it's just like, this is what's happening is nothing short of a complete, absolute revolution. And those revolutionary ideas catch on quick because people we don't have to completely immiserate ourselves. Like the people in the UK, y'all have done some major disservice to yourself. And that poor Canadian who's like, I'm so scared of the Trump thing. What they're really scared of, I submit to you, is they're scared of daring to look at the idea that their wounds that they have are self-inflicted. if you agree to take on an ideology that causes you harm and makes your life miserable, that's because you did that.
Mm-hmm.
That's on you. But more than that, we have the case where because of Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland, like the leadership that's gotten elected in the UK, like in Canada, has been disastrous. I honestly think that the United States we didn't dodge a bullet. We dodged a tank shell this last election. I really think that.
I think so too.
It's so different where we could have been.
Yeah.
And so for the first time in my adult life, I actually am looking, here's what's happening. Trump and Elon basically have come into the government and have said, we're going to look at this like a businessman would, right? In business, you have divisions that you can reform. That's fine. You have product lines that you just got to put a bullet in because it's not working. There's decisions that you have to make. But fundamentally, your point is there's a product we have and we're going to try and improve that and make that the best we can in this marketplace. In politics, the product is, can we serve the public? And Elon and Trump correctly diagnosed, as far as I'm concerned, Evie, that it was no longer serving the interests of the people. It had become about serving its own interests. And it wasn't serving the interests of the people. Because if it was, we wouldn't have that autism map we just looked at. And if it was serving the interests of the people, we wouldn't have the obesity rates.
That's
if it was serving us, we wouldn't have these ridiculous insurance scams and schemes where you can't even get insurance on your house anymore and things like that. Those wouldn't be happening.
Right. And also, I just want to say about like trans people and that whole movement, I feel like those kids are being exploited. Like that's also
true.
Like it is your decision if you decide to believe something and it takes you down a bad pathway. But I also feel that there are a lot of issues that have gotten brushed under the carpet for decades and decades about, what's happened to the family, what people have had to grow up in. Like we've had homeless essentially for forever while they've been sending all these billions of dollars all over the world. And there are kids that have grown up in untenable situations that then get to adulthood, need help and healing, and there really are no supports for that.
It's bad.
And we're just I just feel like the vulnerable in our society have been targeted, and of course they're going to hold on to that ideology because it's the first time they've ever felt seen or heard, and whatever. It's like being a victim gave them a way to understand themselves and to have some sense of identity and power in the world. And I don't know. I get it, but
yeah.
That's my
escalator face says too right, Evie. And we might add do not be, I don't know how to pronounce that. Question is, how much negligence with intent for personal purpose?
Do not obey.
Do not obey. Yeah. Do not Todd. I was thinking Dobby. I don't know. I went Harry Potter on that one. My brain just did a freeze on that one. No, but that's exactly right. So people have been doing things that have been specifically damaging. And when you damage innocent people, children, when you fundamentally fail in your duty, the dereliction is so bad that it goes beyond negligence for me, right?
Like how many of the the whole nightmare that people are going through where they're confused about their sexuality, how much of that is because of the, vaccine schedule the kids have to go through? How many of that is undiagnosed autism where they're just overwhelmed by the world and they can't take it all in and, and they're just overstimulated. Their poor nervous system is wrecked.
And maybe they're more susceptible to sort of peer pressure. They don't have as much internal guidance.
Yeah.
And then you have doctors and guidance counselors and teachers and maybe even your parents who have maybe Transhausen by proxy syndrome, right? Looking for a little.
There it is.
There it is. Okay, I said it out loud, right? But no, that's been happening. And we were in a former regime where that level of mental illness was being lionized, elevated. In fact, the more of a victim you were, the higher you moved up the pantheon of, I don't know, like attention. Like the more like undeserved attention you would get, like the tippy top of that whole thing, like the most would be, I guess, a minority trans person who had cut off some of their arm skin to make a non-functional dangly bit. That would have been like it. That would have been like the most victimized you could be in this triangle, and
it's a competition about oppression. Like I'm more oppressed than you. Let me tell you, why I just deserve more pity. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it was. MC, thank you again. Oh, there's my hand again. Sorry. Victim Olympics. I'm pointing
Yes.
wildly. Yes.
Thank you.
My arms are not under my control
Most
today.
people can say it better than I can.
The Victim Olympics, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
And so you
That's
either
right.
got a gold, a silver, or bronze, or you just didn't place. And
Mhm.
that's where we are. And
it's a wild world. I mean, things are changing really quickly. It's hard. I really feel for kids, and as a parent, I definitely struggle with that.
yeah.
Like, how do you?
Well, what would you do? What would you do if suddenly your youngest was showing up with hey mom, me and all my teachers and professionals and guidance counselors agree I'm in the wrong body here. I want to.
I don't know. That would be a huge adjustment for me. Mostly not because I care one way or the other necessarily. Like that, people's sexuality is their own thing. It's really none of my business. But I think at this point, I would suspect that it had been artificially planted there, that it wasn't coming from an authentic need of any kind. And that I would see it as, my daughter or any child really just needing a lot of support and love and acceptance in other places. I wouldn't even mess with that particular area because they're in so much flux when they're in that stage,
Yeah.
If you still feel that way when you turn 20, fine, whatever.
Yeah.
Go do it.
Well, it could be that, victims are the easiest to control, as Charger Mopar here is saying, hey, Rick. Or it could be, they did turn gender into a fashion, like saying here. That's a possibility. We have a cat scratching at the door, so Evie's going to attend to that situation.
I know she's going to come to say hello.
And but I have to agree as we come into the close here with retro gaming here ish, these last few months beyond my expectations, though, mine too. Like I really, here's the thing: people are asking me a lot right now about things like how do I feel about where Trump is on the vaccinations, and what about Gaza and all this. It's too early. It's just too early. Here's where I'm at on this. I don't have to agree with 100% of things. And I also will be the first to tell you, I have no idea what kind of games and risks. And I don't actually know what's going on behind the scenes. Politics is a sport that I don't get because it's all trade-offs and this and that. But what I've seen so far has exceeded my wildest expectations. And what we're really doing is we're ripping off the Band-Aid off of many decades of self-harms and delusions. And there's a pace that has to happen at too. So as a person who's from the outside in the cheap seats saying, how would I score this? I'm going to have to give it an A+, because the pace is, remember, like Trump first came out, he had 78 executive orders. And the first ones are kind of like, well, there's only two genders at the government federal level. Like if he had come right out of the gate and said, I'm dismantling a USAID today, like first stroke of the pen, it would have been too much too fast. But now that it's happened, that people are going to need these adjustment times, but they're not giving enough adjustment time so that the opposition, such as it is, can regroup and settle and figure it out and know all of this. I don't know where he stands yet on some of those issues I just mentioned. I'm going to give him 6 months. And if we're nowhere on that or we're going the wrong direction, I will be what Ed Dowd called, I will become part of the loyal opposition at that point in time. But we have to give people time in this story. I know it's hard it's only been 2 weeks and I don't know what's happening anymore. It's that amazing and that dramatic. So you want to show everybody what's going on here?
This animal?
Yeah.
No, you're going to have to go to the other view.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, anyway.
You can see her on my lap. Charlie.
We got a mini Chewbacca.
This is our Charlie girl.
Little Chewbacca.
She's very
all right.
Long-haired and fuzzy. Do you want me to read this?
Yes, I want you to bring this ship in for a landing. So Evie, take us home.
Hold on. Okay. I like reading things at the end of our time together because it brings me back to earth, because a lot of what we're discussing and talking about can be very intense. I haven't been watching the chat, so I don't know exactly what's been going on over there, but I know this material is crazy, and thanks for sticking with us. And I hope that you have lots of other great conversations with other folks in this chat, and I hope you join us again real soon. And and also come back to our website if you want to know more. So I'm going to mess this name up, but this person called Mundaka Upanishad, it's like a very unusual name, says, self is everywhere, shining forth from all beings, vaster than the vast, subtler than the most subtle, unreachable yet nearer than breath, than heartbeat. Eye cannot see it, ear cannot hear it, nor tongue utter it. Only in deep absorption can the mind, grown pure and silent, merge with the formless truth. As soon as you find it, you are free. You have found yourself. You have solved the great riddle. Your heart forever is at peace. Whole you enter the whole. Your personal self returns to its radiant, intimate, deathless source.
Thank you, Evie.
You're welcome.
And thank you, everyone, for being here. Again, at Peak Prosperity, I got huge reports coming out. Today's Friday, so today's report, I always do a Monday and a Friday, a big deep dive, but I've also been doing like signal hours all week. This will probably continue for a while, but if you like this content, you want more, and most importantly, you want to find your tribe of people who think this way, understand the world around them. We don't just perseverate on it. We talk about it so that we can get to action. You should be resilient. I think you should be financially resilient, emotionally resilient. And there's a lot coming. There's a good chance that all of this, no matter how well it goes, is going to be a rough ride for a lot of folks, economically, for your community, for your household, don't know. But that's why we like to be resilient and prepared. And that's what we really do at Peak Prosperity, is work on resilience and all of the facets. Resilience to us isn't beans in the basement. It's that.
All the things.
It's all the things. So with that, thanks very much, everybody. It's been great being here with you. And we'll be back again. Just keep an eye out for the next Signal Hour. They're always on Wednesdays, but there'll probably be one on Monday to get this particular, or maybe Saturday. We don't know. Just keep an eye out. We're going to keep going. So with that, thanks very much.
Have a good weekend.
Bye, everyone.